All right, we'll call to order our Safety and Public Works Committee meeting, July 3rd, 2023, 6:30 p.m. Council chambers. We have 10 items tonight. The first item, I think we'll just move it down and have it as the 10th item. I think there was some miscommunication between the city and that group about what time the meeting started. So just to make sure we can hear them, we'll move that to 10. So as item 2 being number 1, this is a discussion on the radar speed feedback sign quote for North 10th Street. And Mr. Dean, go ahead.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, thank you. So follow up to our previous couple discussions about signage over at the intersection of North 10th and Ivy Street. At the last meeting, the committee requested pricing for a radar feedback speed sign similar to the one on Oak Street. We did receive a quote from TAPCO. The quote was for just the sign materials, roughly just under $5,000, including installation and running the electric to it. You're probably running another $4,000 to $5,000 for installation. So somewhere roughly in the realm of about $9,000 to $10,000 for the cost of the sign. So at this time, we're looking for direction from the council on how you'd like to proceed with the signage in the area.
Any thoughts?
No accidents there, right? I mean, anything notable in the last 10 years?
No accident history there.
Okay.
I really appreciate you coming back to us with the numbers. That's good for us just to know. But that's an awful lot of money for a street that hasn't had any actual accidents.
I agree. It's more money than I would expect that would be, and just setting precedent for when we get stop sign requests. It's going to turn out to be a lot of money in the end if we start putting these everywhere.
Just on that note, if you don't mind.
Yep.
At 5th and D, in the apartment I live in, just talked to Jesse last week. A guy was in a wheelchair. He was crossing. He was going on 5th. He crossed the corner to get on D, and he's like where the crosswalk might be. He's in a wheelchair, and he's crossing north on D Street. So he came around the corner to go to Cub, going east, and just about hit him. Had to lock their brakes up, and he's right there. And he sensed the guy coming and got going, and that guy would have hit him if he hadn't. And so we're going to put a sign on 10th and Ivy. It's like, wait a minute, I can see what would happen, just like you said, precedent. That's really concerning because that's the first thing they're asking for. Can we have a flashing red light? Can we have this? Can we have? I'll see what our staff says, but that's a tough call. I certainly want to help people wherever you can, but. Yeah. I can't support the cost of that, unfortunately. So
We've already discussed the stop sign itself and 3 other options, including this one. I think what we have agreed on through the 3 times we've had this in meetings is increased enforcement with our police department is going to be number 1. The one other thing I caught on a post that was a complaint about that intersection is the northwest corner. I don't know if you have a street view, but there's a really big lilac bush that it cuts into the sight line for anybody approaching from the west. And I believe it's in the right of way.
I believe so too.
okay, that's the northwest corner of the intersection,
10th and Ivy, yep.
right? And so they're traveling what direction? Sight encroaching.
So any car coming from the north,
Okay.
a car approaching
Going south.
from the west would not be able to see until.
Okay.
at
So
the end. And
cars.
that's not the complaint that we're dealing
Right.
with, but I think just in general, looking at this intersection, we should have our streets crew go in and probably clear out that bush, at least whatever is in the right of way. And I guess I just ask our police chief, do you think that we can curb this with just increased enforcement at this time?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, since this complaint came up and brought to our attention over the last couple of months, when I say we, I mean our officers have spent a significant amount of time doing traffic enforcement there. I elicited a lot of feedback, and the feedback from the officers was that they were not identifying significant speeders. In fact, typically, I would say the average speed, whether it was north or southbound traffic, was usually in the high 20s. The highest rate of speed that I was advised of was 31. Last week, I took some time and I went down there myself just for a firsthand observation, and my observations were the same. Vast majority of the vehicles are in the high 20s. The fastest one I saw was 31, and that was one out of dozens. So we have been doing targeted enforcement, and we have not identified a speeding issue there.
Chief, you're not visible when you're watching, right?
No,
Okay.
majority of the time we've used unmarked vehicles, and when I was down there personally, I was in an unmarked vehicle, and especially for the northbound traffic that are coming over that hill, if you position yourself down by Holly Street, there's no way for them to identify you before they've committed over that hill, so.
Okay.
Thank you. I think for now, that would be what I would recommend. I don't know if you guys want to.
Well, we don't need to make a motion.
To trim a lilac bush.
Oh,
just
I'm
direct
sorry.
staff.
No.
That, that's what you want to do? I mean,
That seemed,
Yes, we can make
Fair.
that happen.
You need direction on that, or?
Nope, we're pretty clear.
all right, let's move on. Item number 3 is alley closure application for an event, the Lakes Area Skate Park event. And I believe this is Mr. Dean again. Go ahead.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, thank you. So the Skate Park Association's, it's across-the-board art expo event. It's kind of coupled together with Crossing Arts Alliance and the event they're having there on July 28th from 5 to 7 is when they want to do the event. They're requesting closure from 4 to 8 within the alley just north of Laurel Street, adjacent to the Crossing Arts Alliance. Really using just kind of a pop-up skate park, potentially some boombox music, and then they just use the restrooms out of the Crossing Arts Alliance building. So with that, we're just requesting that they request the traffic control materials about a week ahead of time for prior to the event.
Thank you. And this is the same weekend as Street Fest. I'm wondering, are they planning to block the east and west part of that alley, or just the north-south section, half of that block?
My understanding is just the north-south up to the crossing alley, that half a block.
Yeah, I think as long as that stays open, just for emergency use, I think that would be just fine.
I'd
Just-
move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item, number 4, is another event street closure application for the Baton Memorial March. Mr. Dean, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the annual Baton Memorial March event, this one's occurring on September 9th from 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. It's a half marathon. They kind of use the spur line, Old Rail Trail, as well as some Wright Street, and kind of looping through that area of the neighborhood. So they're right now requesting closure of Wright Street on either end, and they would have road guards on either end to help direct traffic onto alternative streets. So with that, staff is recommending approval of the application. Again, 1 week prior that they request traffic control materials, provide sufficient notice of the event to adjacent businesses prior to, and then just coordinating with the appropriate emergency support staff as they requested.
Thank you. And sorry if I missed that. This is closing from the Armory to the trail.
Right Street, correct, yep.
Okay.
So I think they would go from 13th all the way over to the Spur Line Trail is
And
where
that
they
would
would
be
want to
closed
close
the
it.
entire time of the event, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m.?
I think they would generally let people get into businesses and stuff if need be, but obviously depends on where the runners are at, to try and keep the runners safe.
Okay. Is this something they've done before?
Yes, this is an annual event.
I don't remember this one coming up last year, but I'm sure it did. Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Me too.
All right. Motion passes. Next item is where are we at here? Approval of Brainerd Transit Fare increase. And again, this is Mr. Dean. Go ahead.
Thank Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is we're bringing this back to the committee for discussion again. We brought it back in April 20th, or not April 20th, I apologize, May 15th for discussion here. It was requested at that time that the committee wanted to look at this agenda item again after the other three cooperative partners had a chance to take action on the recommendations. To date, all three have taken the recommendation from staff, with the exception of Baxter, who added an extra $1 to the recommendation for their fare structure. So instead of 6 and 10, as the staff had recommended, they moved it to 7 and 11 for their fare recommendation. But other than that, everything else has gone according to the staff recommendation that was included in the memo. With that, staff is recommending the fare increase to $4 per ride for Brainerd originating ride trips, or $8 for same-day service, and we would have that effective August 7th.
Thank you. Was there a reason given, I'm sure there was, for the increase that we had recommended in Baxter?
They were concerned there was, the analysis has showed that there was still a little bit of a shortfall on their end based on our projections. So they wanted to avoid that shortfall, so they increased the fare to accommodate that.
And would that increase affect our ability to maybe hold back on our increase in town, or is it just too small of a percentage of the overall rides?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Their fares pay for their service. Whatever they collect goes to their fund, so whatever, we
Correct.
can't dip into what they generate in the fare box. If that's what
So-
you're referring to.
Thank you. Yeah, I apologize. So
Okay.
that was what you're asking. All four of our cooperative partners have the same agreement that they are responsible for their share of expenses, whether that be through fare box revenue or through an invoice at the end of the year if they don't generate enough through there. So it's really independent of what our operation would be. If Brainerd doesn't generate enough fare box revenue, the city is responsible to fund just the city's portion of the shortfall for that. And that would be independent of Crow Wing or Baxter.
Okay. You have any more discussion points, questions?
Based on the numbers you have, Mr. Dean, is there a, can you give me a dollar amount of, if we kept that 2 1/4, based on the ridership and what we would be short and have to make up if we did not increase the fares to $4?
If ridership stayed where it is right now?
Yep. If everything stayed the same and your projections, you see, I guess what I'm getting at, the alternative is raise the fares. That's it. And then I think you did mention otherwise we would have to levy on, I'm not even sure if cutting service is factored in there, but that's the only thing I was wondering about, a dollar amount specific to if we keep things standard operating procedure with the fare structure as it is at 2 1/4, originating in Brainerd rides, what would that mean for a dollar amount of shortfall? Like, say, if we were to levy for that amount? Because and what I'm getting at is, if we were gonna levy for this, we'd have to figure that in our budget for the preliminary levy, which I believe is in August, I think. Will we make that?
Yep. So I'll give you a quick estimate. It's not going to be super accurate, but it'll be at least a reference. So generally, the projections show a local share for Brainerd's portion at about $200,000 per year for the next handful of years. The fare structure that we had generally just about funded that evenly. So 2 1/4 is going to be about 60%. Ballpark, I'd have to do the calculation on it. So we would be responsible for 40% of the 200,000,
Okay.
give or take.
All right,
If that kind of gives you an idea of
so
scale.
roughly $80,000.
Correct.
Okay.
I have a question, I guess, maybe more for Jeff, because I know you've been on the TAC committee for quite a while. Have you guys ever spoke about using the buses as advertisements?
We do have advertising on them.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've never noticed it.
Yeah, well,
If you look at buses in a lot of cities, it's completely wrapped, windows and all. You can still see out, but
I'm not sure the number of buses we have wrapped and what the advertisement in on them. I'm not your guy for that.
Sure.
But we do sell advertising on those, and we get a small, generates some revenue. Of course, the advertising place, I think, there's a split there.
sure.
They charge, and so,
Okay,
yep. It's not a lot of money though, Mike, you know.
right.
Yeah.
Well, got to wrap the whole bus if you want the big bucks.
So, yeah, of course, my concern is if you virtually double the fare here from 2.25, which we just raised from 1.25 to 2.25 on May 1st, it's going to affect people riding. And if somebody, we say, originates in Brainerd, it's $4 to go to Baxter. When they return, it's another $7 now. They're now taking a $4.50 round trip currently and turning it into a $11 trip just to go to Baxter and back if you originate in Brainerd. That's virtually almost three times as much. We're jeopardizing ridership, and we don't do enough promoting. You know, it's easy to. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the answer is, but it's not an easy thing to do. People want to say they want to go to a bank, a post office, and come home. Right now, it's $6.75. If we raise this, it'll be $12. So it's a big hit. Most of the people who ride this bus, not all of them, are pretty tight. Their finances are pretty tight, and so what are we going to effectively do? They're not going to ride it. They're going to find alternative rides, which I think a lot of this, our shutdown, which closed businesses and that type of thing. It then accommodated people to. You found neighbors and friends and that who gave rides, and perhaps we're not getting the ridership back, where people have found alternative routes where more ridership does actually help our system. You know, you can argue that it does cost more money, but if that bus is going around the neighborhoods and around the town and out to Baxter, it picks up along the way. It's not like you make, so that's the whole point of a shared ride. You maximize your efficiency by being able to pick up people along the way and organize those rides through your route match or your computerized software dispatching. So I really struggle with the increase. I know it's, I've ridden now for 30 years, and I haven't ridden a whole lot lately. I'm the first one to tell you, if there's an alternative ride, I'll try and find it. Time is important to everybody, and so it's a tough one for me. I really struggle with this, and I honestly haven't made up my mind how I want to vote on this, so.
Well, I too am worried about a death spiral. If rates go up, ridership goes down, rates have to go up more, ridership goes down even more. But I don't really have a better solution. And I was really hoping one of our partners would come up with some out of the box idea that would solve the problem. But I don't really see anything, and clearly none of our partners have found anything. I want transit to be self-supporting. I would be interested in hearing perspectives on having some small subsidy moving forward out of the levy, because I do think that it is a benefit to our community to have transit for no other reason than the economics of people moving around town, and maybe there would be fewer cars on the road, maybe, I don't know. But at this point, right now, today, we're not doing that. So I guess I will make the motion to bump let me find the right date, to increase the fare to $4 for Brainerd originating dial-a-ride trips, $8 for same service, effective August 7th, 2023.
Do we have a second? I don't believe I can second.
Yeah, you can.
I believe, well, Council President, I should check, Mike. I think you'd have to step down as,
You just pass the gavel.
pass the gavel to Jeff, and then you can second
I
it.
think whoever would you consider,
Well, but I made the motion, so it's gotta be you.
okay. Good point.
So if you pass the gavel to Jeff, then you can second it, and he can finish.
Well, we'll figuratively pass the gavel, so I
Figuratively.
now have the gavel.
Yeah, we will figuratively pass the
And
gavel
I take
to Jeff.
over, okay. Now you're really in trouble.
Yep.
So you passed it to me, you want to make a second?
I will second this one.
Okay, so we have a motion by Tiffany and a second by Mike. Is there any further discussion?
I will say, we have our public transport. We also have Lyft in town. We have Brainerd taxis. And we have minivans. So there is competition. And at some point, we're going to hit the number where it's not competitive anymore. So I agree with you guys' thoughts that this is not ideal. But having no other idea on what to do on this one, I just have to second this and vote yes, because there's been a lot of discussion, and this is what has been brought forward. So that's where we're at.
Do you have anything further?
Nope.
Just to clarify, Mike, the minivan is limited exclusively to individuals with, well, I guess it's not an exclusive thing, but it's usually a lot of times people will use the county medical assistance type of service, that they'll pay for that. But that increases rates too for everybody when they start using that. And of course, Lyft and your, what is it?
Brainerd taxis.
Taxi, there really isn't a comparison, and that's why a $4 ride, which I can agree with, is a much better deal within the city limits of Brainerd. If I'm gonna go from where I live to, say, BMC, I'm gonna probably, you know, I can imagine that's gonna be at least $8 to $10. So that's one way. So I get it. But we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye. Give the gavel back.
You
Right.
have to declare whether it passed or not.
Oh, yeah, it did pass.
Yeah, motion
Thank you.
passed 2-1.
I thought that was obvious.
Go to the next item.
Put that in the minutes, right?
Item number 5 would be the discussion on Trunk Highway 371B speed study. Mr. Dean, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So MnDOT just recently completed a speed study on 371B or South 6th Street, all the way from 371 Bridge to 210. As part of that study, they look at a handful of different things, what people are generally doing for speed currently, crash history, access points, curves, just checking over whether or not a road is specifically signed correctly or if there's something that needs to be improved there. I included a summary of the data that was found in the speed study. So I'm not going to read through that, but generally what they found is in the area of Brainerd, pretty much between Buffalo Hills and 210 is many of the people are going roughly about 5 miles an hour over the posted speed limit. The area between Buffalo Hills going up to about Quince, generally pretty safe. I mean, obviously they have the speeds going about 5 miles an hour, but there's not an excessive crash rate that goes beyond the critical rate. In the north, kind of the downtown core section, the business district, they were finding a lot more issues there with not only speed, almost none of the vehicles were traveling at the posted speed limit, and they do have a considerable crash rate history there. That was a little over 3 times the critical rate in that area. So in reviewing all those results, MnDOT is coming up with 2 likely recommendations to send to their central office. First is that the segment between Buffalo Hills Lane and Willow Street is likely to be recommended to stay at 40. The segment between Willow and 210 is likely to be recommended to be adjusted up to 35. And that's to closely mirror generally what you're finding for measured speeds in the area, and hopefully that kind of helps alleviate some of the crashes that they're seeing over there as well. So as of right now, staff is just kind of looking for any kind of direction from the council on what they'd like to see, if if they'd like to see us try and do something over there. Some of our options would be partnering with MnDOT on a demonstration project or a city-initiated project to try and slow the speeds down, do nothing, kind of see what the central office is going to come back with if they want to go ahead and move the speed up. Or there's potential other options too, but.
Digital speed sign.
We could. That would have to be approved by MnDOT. So this, in the end, this is all up to MnDOT, whether or not we say we like it or not. They can change the speeds. We really don't have any jurisdiction on that rule.
Correct. If we decided we wanted to do some sort of a demonstration project or a city-initiated project to try and do some traffic calming, like construct new bump outs or convert some lanes, obviously they'd have to be approved by MnDOT to be able to initiate that, and we would partner with them. But then we would have to do another it would likely go in that recommendation is they leave it for now until they can evaluate the results of the demonstration project. And if it was successful in doing traffic calming, it's possible that that demonstration project becomes permanent.
Okay. I don't know how far into it I want to commit as far as getting a study started or anything like that. I would say that I think it would be of our best interest to keep those speeds down, the speed limits down exactly where they're at right now, whether or not people are speeding or not. We have a lot of pedestrian traffic, especially by the high school on both Oak and Pine. We have a lot by the Holiday Station as well. I think bringing speeds up to 35, we all know that that just means 40 for most people. So I don't know how to go about trying to do that other than a study or writing a letter. But in the end, I think they're going to do what they're going to do. And adding more construction projects in the next 2 or 3 years as far as bump outs and tearing up roads, as we can see in a year like this, I don't really have much of an appetite for that right now. I don't know about you guys.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I would just make a motion that we just hold this over and until, I don't know if it's an appropriate time yet to really take any action on anything. We don't know what MnDOT's gonna recommend. I'd wait to see their recommendation before, and if it, I may have misunderstood you, Jesse, that I didn't know, maybe I did, maybe I didn't, but, they can just say we're gonna increase or decrease the speed zones and we have no say in it? Is that what I understand now?
So the recommendations are probably going to come from the district office
Right.
and get sent to the central office. Ultimately, the central office has to approve, or they don't have to agree with the recommendations either. So even if the district said we want to continue to have it at 30, the central office may look at the data of that
Okay,
study and say that's not what that.
My question is, do we have any say in it at all? They can just do whatever they want. Is that-
If we wanted to partner on a demonstration project, that is something that if we can partner with them and they're approving of that, we can potentially hold off on that until we can see what the results of a demonstration project would do.
What's the cost on something like that?
It depends on the project.
I guess before we do anything drastic, I'd like to have a little bit more, do they have an appetite for us to do a demonstration project? What would it cost us? What's like,
I think they would be open to partnering with a demonstration project. We would probably have some discussions with their traffic engineer as well as our staff of, what levels of acceptability do they want to see? Obviously, they're worried about operations too. So what can we come together with a good demonstration project to bring that back to council?
I'm leaning towards that too.
Yeah, I'd be in favor. I'd move that we direct staff to work with MnDOT to come back with a proposal on a demonstration project to whatever you guys, I guess, see would be most appropriate at this time. And then you can let us figure it out from there.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right. Item number 6 is approving the award for Trunk Highway 210 Washington Street Utility Replacements Engineering Services Agreement. Mr. Dean, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So staff is doing some preparation work for the Trunk Highway 210 reconstruction project. Part of that project includes water main replacement, sanitary sewer replacement, as well as lighting replacement throughout the corridor. We reached out to SRF as SRF was the awarded consultant on the road design part of the project for MnDOT. As they're going to be obviously very familiar with the project, we reached out to them because we knew that there was going to be some efficiencies gained by having one consultant doing all of that work for us as well. So we did get a proposal from them of a not to exceed a number of $264,531 to complete design of the water main, sanitary, and lighting replacement for the project. Roughly about 60% of that cost would be water, 20% sanitary sewer, and 20% of that would be lighting. Cost associated with the water main and sanitary, we would propose to be funded through the enterprise funds for those utilities specifically. The lighting, we would try and utilize our state aid fund if we are approved by state aid. So as of right now, staff is recommending the award of the contract to SRF in the amount of $264,531. And then we also have a representative of SRF here as well if there is questions regarding the contract or the scope.
Okay. You guys have any questions? It makes sense to me, if it makes everything more streamlined. If there's anything you want to say, go ahead. Otherwise, looking for a motion.
Does the individual want to speak?
He's shrugging his shoulders.
Looks like he's coming up.
You don't have to.
Just make sure that microphone is on.
There's a green light. Sounds good. All right. Thank you.
Name and address.
Brady Ruttman with SRF Consulting Group. SRF is out of Minneapolis. I live in Brainerd, 332 Aspen Court. I guess I don't have a lot to add. If you seem to agree that with it being more efficient, I can assure you that it is more efficient if we were bidding on this project, not having the highway, the MnDOT project to design. The number will be bigger. I can't speak on behalf of every consultant, but, and we have our staff, because this is associated with the MnDOT project, but separate, we have separate staff working in different platforms to make sure that we don't mix and match and kind of muddy the waters of who's working on which project and does it bill to the city or MnDOT. But one or two of us, myself most prominently, will be kind of overseeing and checking and sharing resources. So I don't know if that made it more clear or not, but
Makes sense
that's
to
how
me.
we structured it.
Thank you. All right.
Jeff?
I'll move to approve the recommendation by staff on this to award the consulting engineering services on this project to SRF.
Second?
Motion.
Not to exceed amount of whatever Jesse said it was.
All right, following the recommendation, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item is change orders 1 and 2 to improvement 22-06 Harrison Safe Routes to School. Mr. Dean, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So again, two change orders. I'll explain the first one here. The first one, there were some issues that we found after placing the new curb with the original design and the ability to mill the existing pavement and pave the new pavement there. So looking at options of how to do some corrections in this area so we can get this ready for paving. One option was milling the additional pavement down further. Another one was reclaiming and then blending the remaining pieces back and then paving. And then finally, just removing the pavement, bringing in some class 5 gravel material to fill in the difference, and then paving. After reviewing all those considerations, obviously cost being a very important consideration for that, but also timing. We're not sure on what the availability for a mill or a reclaimer by a subcontractor would be and how soon they'd be able to get there. But the pavement removal option can be done through Dechantel's forces directly. So it's just a matter of when his schedule would be. And then with that, we're also getting a little bit of a break on our paving price because of the extra efficiency with this recommendation. We don't get that efficiency with milling. So ultimately, staff is recommending the change order The recommendation in change order 1 is the removal of the pavement and bringing in the additional class 5 to bring it to grade for paving. The other change order in here is change order 2. This was a cost to remove the existing overhead poles that had school crossings, the flashing beacon signage that kind of hung over Oak Street. It was intended that this was going to be part of the project anyways. It just did not get into the original bid, so this is just getting that cleaned up as well. Under the grant, we do have $500,000 available for construction. Adding the $465,000 and change of the original bid and then these two proposed change orders, this would total just under $480,000. So we are still within the grant amount. So as of right now, staff is recommending approval of change orders 1 and 2 in the amounts of $11,179.84 and then change order 2 of $2,475.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
So when did they discover this? How long have they been waiting on this, I guess?
No, we discovered this last week after the new curb was in and realized that there was some sections that were a little bit higher than on the pavement, mostly because of varying grades.
Okay.
So the old pavement had like a broken slope, I'd call it. So part of the road went in one slope, part of the road went on a different slope.
Yep.
Realized this after the curb was in place that we were going to have this issue.
So based on that discovery, do you have an option here to not approve the change order? I mean, I'm not suggesting we shouldn't, but you're in the middle of a project, you find this, it's like, we gotta do the right thing. You can't not approve this, right? I mean, we don't really have a choice, do we?
Well, we can do one of the other options, but to get it ready for paving, we
Right.
have to select kind of one of these three
Okay.
options. So this is why the staff came up with this recommendation.
Fair enough.
If we want to end up with a product that doesn't start cracking in 1 year, I think.
No, I understand. It's interesting. The only thing I'm bringing it up for is it's interesting. Has this delayed the work because you found it last week? Have they had to halt anything because they're waiting for us to make this decision? That's, I guess, my.
No, when they were wrapping up the concrete last week, that was independent of this. So
Okay.
this gives that contractor a little bit more clear direction of where we want to go so they can start lining that up. But no, this isn't really holding that project up.
Anytime you start a project, and any homeowner will tell you, you're gonna find something else wrong underneath, so. I put this in that category, so I'll go ahead and move, to approve both change orders 1 and 2 in the amounts of $11,179.84 and $2,475.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number,
I don't like it.
we didn't skip one, did we?
We
No.
skipped the first
Skip
one.
the first one.
Right. I'm just thinking that we did. Okay. Final pay estimate for the sanitary force main rehab. Mr. Dean, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a final payment request for Michael's Trenchless. They were doing our sewer rehab project over in the area of Rotary Park for our force main. That project was basically a cleaning and then relining of the existing pipes so we could save some costs of not replacing. We've been waiting for some final reports and documentation from Michael's. Finally, we did receive those reports. So at this point, we feel comfortable with going ahead and preparing a final pay estimate for council approval to close the project out. And the final pay estimate for that project is $75,794.90, which does total $338,962, which is a less than the original amount of the bid. We did have some savings on that project.
Excellent.
I'd move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Next is direction on active code enforcement cases. Mr. Kromvik, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff is bringing one case before the committee for tonight's meeting. It is 624 8th Avenue Northeast. This is for junk and debris present on the property. As you notice in the picture, various items, car seat, old washer and dryer, pieces of carpet and carpet padding, old lawnmowers, tubs, light posts. So with that, staff has sent out essentially a notice of violation as well as 3 citations. No response from the owners. So staff is recommending obtaining a search warrant and abating the property.
Mr. Chair?
sir.
James, would it matter if there were new wash machines and dryers and new lawnmowers?
It potentially would be maybe more considered outdoor storage than junk and debris.
Okay.
That's the only
Well,
difference.
Then you answered my question. Thank you very much.
All right. You have a motion?
I so move to take action on this as recommended.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, now we will go to our originally number 1, which has been moved to number 10, and I think that worked out because it looks like everybody showed up in the meantime. So this is discussion on the Oak Street detour. I know we have a handful of residents here that want to speak. It's up to your group if you want to have one representative speak. It looks like we have about 20 minutes or a little less than 20 minutes until the council meeting will start. You can split that time up. Hopefully we can finish before that. But Mr. Dean, if you want to just introduce the topic and then we'll move into more of a public forum type.
Can I make a comment just so
Yeah, go ahead.
the people here know? I don't think you'll be allowed to speak during the council meeting, but there's a possibility, highly doubted, right? Wouldn't you agree?
You could ask the president. He is here.
He is here.
Oh, he
He
is?
snuck
I'm
in.
sorry. I didn't know you were there, Kelly.
I mean, that's normal procedure.
Yep,
would be to
I just wanted to,
Public hearing, but I've been outvoted before.
not enough.
There you go. We can talk all night.
Go ahead, Mr. Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So again, this was a requested item from council members listed here on the agenda item. So just to discuss the Oak Street detour for the Harrison Elementary Safe Routes Project, and that was brought to this committee for some discussion. I just wanted to put in an extra reminder that the official signed detour for the work on Oak Street includes 14th Street Southeast, Norwood Street, and 17th Street Southeast. Because of the traffic that we were having over there, we did some adjustments to stop signs. We did some temporary stop signs. We also did some temporary bagging of other stop signs to assist with traffic flow. But we also had issues of people going down Norwood through 13th to 14th. So we put an additional barricade with an arrow to try and strongly encourage drivers to continue to utilize the detour as it's signed. A lot of the other increased traffic that we've seen on Oak Street has been due to the 25 bridge replacement project. However, the official signed detour for that is DC Drive or County Road 117 to South 6th at 371B and Washington Street 210. Both city and state have been putting out reminders that those are the two official detours with those projects. I know MnDOT also has those digital changeable message signs that do encourage drivers to follow the detour. And I believe it's Trunk Highway 25 closed, and then the second flash is follow detour. So I know through their signage, they're also trying to push people to follow the signed detour as well. So with that, I'll open it up to the committee for discussion.
Does anybody want to approach? We'll just have you give your name and address before you speak.
My name is Daniel Wall. I live at 423 Southeast 17th Street. I guess my concern with the whole bypass thing, I understand traffic repairs or street repairs have to get done. It has to get done. People have to move different ways. Unfortunately, I think it was poorly planned, poorly executed. Nobody's paying attention to any of the signs. I have semi-trucks going down my street, down 17th. That's maybe wide enough for one vehicle to get through, as is, if you have cars parked on either side. I'm worried about 33 tons of truck rolling down my street, the damage it's doing to the asphalt. Of course, I live on the corner, so if any street repairs are done, I'm being assessed for both those streets. You know, those streets aren't set up for 33-ton trucks, tractor trailers. It's a mess. They can't get through. Nobody's obeying the traffic signs, the 4-ton limits, et cetera. They're driving right through. It doesn't matter. I've talked to Chief Davis about it. We had a couple of cop cars out there for a couple of days, and that's pretty much it as far as that goes. You know, I don't know what the solution is. I guess my thought is, if we're going to reroute traffic the way they're doing it now, send one lane down Pine Street and the other direction down Norwood, whichever it may be. Try and lessen the traffic up, enforce the signs that are there, maybe more law enforcement presence, something like that. And I guess I'm concerned about the assessment to my property taxes for those street repairs. My friend Kathy has pictures of the damage to the streets. The street in front of my house has a whole lot of new cracks that weren't there before, potholes. Maple Street, I've been in my house for 27 years. Maple Street has never been repaired. They come out, they patch a piece like this, they spray paint a little circle or a square, they put in their patch, and it's junk. It's never getting fixed, ever. And they say, well, it's because it's swampland through there, we can only do this. Nobody's ever tried to repair it properly, ever. I know the guy that is on the corner of Maple and 17th has called the city numerous times over the years to try and get him to do something about it. Nothing gets done. So, like I said, I don't know, a compromise, something in property tax assessment when it comes to repairs, if they repair it. As something's gonna have to get done. Like I said, we have potholes that are 5-6 inches deep, big ones. You know, somebody decided they thought it'd be fine to pour a box of roofing nails into one of the potholes and got spread out at 16th and Maple. So, that's all I really have. I'm concerned. My grandchildren live right close to my house. They go across to the Harrison School to play in the playgrounds. They're afraid to go over there anymore. The traffic is horrendous. They don't stop for the stop sign. They'll slow down sometimes and then right on through. I've almost been T-boned trying to park in front of my house twice. One stopped about that far from my door. I thought he was going to hit me for sure. He didn't, but like I said, maybe slow the traffic down by going one way, the other way. Thin it out anyway. I don't know about slow it down, but thin it out, going direction to direction, and enforce the weight limits, enforce the signs that are there. The sign that the city engineer talks about, the arrow to try and push them back up to Oak Street, they just drive around it. You know, we've had one accident on 13th and Norwood down there, people trying to zip across with the traffic, and now it's going to get worse with the county fair happening, all the different stuff for 4th of July. Tomorrow night it's going to be horrendous with traffic, people trying to get in and out, to go downtown, and it's bad. I don't know what to say.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you.
And my name is Kathleen Dool, and I live just a few doors down from Danny. And he was working, and I'm retired, so I've been taking pictures, and I concised about 189 pictures down to these pictures here. And mostly, all these pothole pictures are at the beginning, the very beginning, coming off of Oak. That's where they want people to go, down 14th to Norwood. So all of these first pictures are basically that one block. And I got close-up pictures of them so people can see what this started out to be has gotten a total disaster. They even put their signs right here, and there's a pothole so deep right there that you can't hardly get around the corner. Well, this is one right here that they actually put the sign in, and this is a pothole right here, and these are up here right in the middle, so anybody turning on Norwood back onto 14th to get to Oak, they have to come through these potholes. So everybody's hoping they're not gonna get their vehicles wrecked. These potholes here are further down on this block towards the beginning, and I should have brought my ruler. I think they're at least 8 inches deep.
Some of them are pretty bad.
Yeah, they're really bad. And these are also the cracks we're dealing with, and we've got broken curbing, and we have semis coming through there, big work trucks coming through.
Up
We
over the
had
curb in the
logging
corners,
trucks
yeah.
coming through. These are some of the pictures that I was showing as they're turning this corner here, and they can't hardly get around here.
People pull up too far. They can't make this turn. They have to back up.
Yep.
Move around, and then try and get around, drive up over the curb, cross into the yard.
And then what they're not doing, they're also deciding to take their own turn to miss the whole works. This truck, I was sitting right out here in front of Danny's property, and this is 17th. This truck came off of Maple, so he came down off of 13th from Maple to go here and skip the works. So we've got all these trucks going every which way, FedEx, all these big
They're
vehicles.
using all the outlying streets now instead of the
Yeah.
bypass itself. Now they're just going out and around every which way.
And what I'm concerned about is we have a lot of, in our block, this one physical block, and then the next block up on 19th, there's a lot of small children, and they're all riding bike, they're all playing. Some of the families have chosen not to let their kids even go out and play. The other ones are basically nobody's caring, and we have two specific boys that I'm surprised they haven't got hit by any one of these vehicles. I go out there almost every day. Everybody has told them they can't go down the middle of the road, but they
ride
do
right
it.
across the intersection, kitty corner.
Yeah.
They don't stop, they don't look, they don't do anything, just ride right across.
Yeah.
In front of cars turning, they don't care.
So, but this is what we're dealing with continually. This particular one came down, this is my car, the edge of my car, and I went to get out of it. He came by me the other day, and with this car, my car, and this car, he barely had room, and he almost went right over the corner as he turned that. But this is what we're all dealing with on a daily basis in our neighborhood.
This is all damage, we're gonna be assessed on our property taxes when
Yeah.
it comes to street repair. I don't think it's fair that we should have to bear the brunt of a poor plan, period.
But it's all the streets involved, and I haven't been over to Pine to see how bad they are. I'm assuming they're having the same issues, but I know that a lot of these are coming right square off of Oak Street, even down on 18th, instead of going up to where they're supposed to. And they're turning, and they're even going clean down to Maple and then going up to 13th. And like he said, Maple is so bad, it's like going on a roller coaster
It's bad.
to get up there.
They're breaking it up even worse.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
patch isn't gonna fix it this time, a little square patch is
So-
gonna be done.
But we were hoping if they could reroute it or do something, you know. My thoughts were, if nothing more, Danny had a pretty good idea, but then also if they got to 13th Street on Oak facing east, why couldn't they all go south, straight down to the TC Road? One straight shot, and then take a left, and it's about a mile to 25 south, then they can go whichever way they choose. And there's no housing on the TC Road. They aren't going by all these houses, you know.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Kathy.
Is there anybody else out in the crowd that wants to say anything?
We're just here to show support,
Thank you.
neighborhoods.
All right, so they've covered it, I think. So, yeah, Mr. Dean, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I just want to help with the pothole concerns. I know our street department went out there at the beginning of the project to kind of fill in some of the ones on 14th, but we've obviously had more ones with the new traffic come in. And it is something that's on our list for Wednesday. That detour route does get repatched up, so that way it's passable, that those are pretty big potholes that we have developed over there. So that is their top priority come Wednesday after the 4th.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I agree that this should be something that we look at as far as what is assessed to these properties along the detour whenever we get around to replacing the entire street. I don't know if it's on our 5-year plan right now, but that's kind of an evolving situation where it could be added, I believe. But I think I would direct staff to look into that. You know, is there a standard of practice after something like this where there's extra damage from a detour that would drop the percentage of their assessment? Maybe if we could get that back in a couple weeks?
Mr. Chair, we can research that and get it back to you.
Thank you. The other thing, I thought the same about having east and west traffic take different routes. I did ask the engineer about that. It sounds like changing that in the middle of a construction project is pretty costly as far as the signage that has already been contracted. Not to say that it couldn't be done, but I think the main thing is these big trucks coming through there. So, Mr. Dean, what is this road, what is Norwood 14th and 17th rated for?
I believe it's one of our residential sections. It's generally designed around the 7-ton design. But there are no streets that have a weight limit restriction posted on them.
Is there any way on, say, 13th, that trucks coming from the west, could we have a sign, trucks must turn? Just as this individual is saying, those trucks technically should take 13th to TC around 25, Highway 25 to get back around this area. And same thing coming from the east, I think we could have a sign all the way out at the stoplight at 18 and 25 directing trucks to take a left and take 25 to TC to 13th.
It would take time to get a sign fabricated. I'm not sure how long it would take to get one fabricated and sent. I'm thinking we're in the 2 to 3 week range to finish up the project. It's probably going to take at least a week or two to get the sign fabricated and installed. The one concern I would have about the one at east going west on Oak is you'd probably have to place it after the stoplight. And by that time, trucks have kind of already committed to driving on Oak. There's not really a really great avenue for them to turn around. So it'd be a little bit of a challenge there, and if they would be adhering to that sign. But if that's what the council wants, we can definitely put signs up there.
Is there a reason we couldn't put that sign on Highway 18?
I'd have to have MnDOT approve it, but I think that would be confusing to them, because if you were to put it on 18, is it restricting truck traffic on the detour route, or if it's restricting it to Oaks specifically? We could have a custom one built again. That's going to be a little bit more time, so it's probably going to be a 2 to 3 to make a custom sign that says like no truck traffic on Oak Street specifically. But if the council wants to go that direction, that's something we can do. But I'm concerned that we probably won't have the signs on hand prior to the completion of the project.
Do we have something simpler that we wouldn't have to have fabricated, like no trucks?
I don't think we have any of those signs on hand.
Well, seeing as how the time frame of the project is wrapping up, thank God. I don't know if commissioning, having a new sign like that would be worth it, but if we could look through and see if we have anything that would help us direct trucks not to take that specific part of the detour, that would be beneficial, not just to these folks here, but also our police department as well, and whoever else has to get involved in this.
We could potentially rent a changeable message board that we could put on, if MnDOT would allow it, on the trunk highway, kind of instructing no trucks on Oak Street, or trucks use sign detour, something along those lines. But whether or not, we'd have to be able to see if there's one available in the area.
That would be a good start, I think.
I would agree. I think whatever creative ideas you can come up with to minimize, I don't know how you'd ever totally prevent the larger trucks from driving on the street. But whatever we can do to minimize or capacity or the number of those vehicles, I think we ought to do whatever we can. And of course, I'm interested as well in looking at some potential to alleviate any future road project costs to the property owners where it's gotten really bad because of this traffic. If that's a possibility, even I don't know how that works.
So I think, go ahead.
Well, I want to thank the citizens for bringing this up. I think this is a really good opportunity for us to, as a city, learn from this experience as we're looking at having 210 torn up and what that's going to do to Brainerd and our side streets. And I know I've got in my mind some things that we need to deal with before that, but I really appreciate you folks coming and bringing this up, because we can't read your minds for one thing, so thank you. It sounds like there are two different problems. One is that the detour is not ideally placed, and the other is that people are ignoring it and just going the way they want to go. And I think I don't see a good option for solving that, but I want to explore that in this situation and do what we can in the next few weeks before this project is done, and learn and be better prepared the next time we have to do detours in town.
I would look for a motion to direct staff to come back in 2 weeks with a report on what we can do with the assessments in the future, as well as looking into any signage that we can use to steer trucks out of that area.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion?
To clarify on the signage, did you want us to put that in place as soon as we can get one, if possible? Or wait until we go to the next council meeting to discuss it?
I think by next council meeting would be too late. So as long as it's reasonable cost that you can get it out there before that, I think as soon as possible would be the answer there, right?
Yes.
Yeah, reasonable cost, that's very subjective, but I don't know what a rental sign would be, but I think we need to alleviate these large trucks as much as possible. So if that helps,
Do you know a figure for the sign that you're thinking?
It's going to be several hundred a week, most likely, but I can't say that for sure without knowing offhand.
2 to
Totally
3
fine.
weeks. Yeah.
That would be reasonable.
thank you.
All right, any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. We can adjourn to the council meeting in
Negative
0
30
minutes.
seconds.